Wow. Oh, here we go. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahlihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay. Not exactly 100% sure where exactly we left off, but I know we're somewhere over here. So okay, so we definitely talked about the verses that detail that there are three types of uh, blasphemies, right? The you remember?
Remember what?
You remember what the three types of blasphemies that a person, three types of kufr that a person could commit that would take them out of Islam were?
Wasn't shirk one of them, and then what was the other two?
Okay, that wasn't how we were categorizing it. Okay, shirk. Shirk is a blasphemy, but shirk can be committed by one or two of those ways in general. So, what we said was the kufr, there's a kufr by the tongue, there's the kufr by the heart, and there is the kufr by the action. So, a person can commit kufr in their heart by adopting a blasphemous belief. So, in this case, if they believed in the permissibility of worshiping other than Allah, this would be shirk. Okay, uh, they would be committing it by their heart, or various other beliefs. You know what I'm saying? If they equated something with Allah Azza wa Jal. If let me see, if they doubted in the existence of Allah or one of His necessarily known attributes, this would be kufr in the heart. Okay, or doubting in the truthfulness of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Uh, these are kufr beliefs. Kufr statement would be uttering a statement that contradicts the religion, um, that belies the religion. Okay, um, that degrades the religion. Okay, so like example, if by a kufr statement you said something that um like if you said like marriage isn't good, but the religion praised marriage. Marriage is the way that you can have uh lawful children and lawful relations with the opposite sex, like this, right? So if a person said marriage was bad or haram, this would be a kufr statement. Um, and then kufr actions is like uh, doing something like prostrating to the sun, to the moon, or to the devil, to an idol, okay, or stepping on the mushaf, or throwing the mushaf in the garbage. Okay, so these were the three things. So we mentioned these, and I think we went further into where I'm going to start, but I'm just going to start here because I don't remember exactly where we went. It's been like, not sure, maybe 3 weeks since we did a class, I think. Um, so it said, let it be known that among the beliefs, there are those beliefs that if the person has, this takes him out of Islam. Among these beliefs is believing that the world is eternal by kind and elements, or by kind only, or believing that Allah is attributed with created attributes, such as believing that His will is created, or believing that He willed for something after not having willed for it, i.e., so as if He changed His will. Okay, so these beliefs that they're mentioning Okay, so we said believing that the world is eternal by kind and elements or by kind only, right? So uh what was it? To believe that the world is eternal by kind and the elements is basically to say everything always existed. And if a person believes that the world is by eternal by kind only, is to believe that there was always a type of something existing without a beginning, but each element of that thing is created. So an example of that is to believe there were always humans, but each human is created. And that man Ibn Taymiyyah al-Harani, whom the Wahhabis call Sheikh al-Islam, he believed in that second type. And Imam az-Zarkashi, rahimahullah, he documented that the Muslims judge both of these beliefs as blasphemous. And as absurd as these beliefs sound, they come from the ancient philosophers, the Greek philosophers. So the Muslims documented that Greek philosophers taught this, i.e., that the world was eternal by kind and elements, or eternal by kind. So they had differences amongst those philosophers. And some philosophers took one position, and some philosophers took another position. And we judge both cases to be blasphemy. Okay, because we say everything other than Allah is created. And Allah Azza wa Jal said, who Allah said about himself that who wal awalu wal akhiru. So this statement of Allah that he was al awal is the eternal without a beginning. And the way he said it, he said who will. So he put the alif lam on there. That's a definitive statement. So it's indicating that he is the only one that is without a beginning, whereas everything else is created. And to say that something was not created, but it exists, is to equate it with Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's to say that it existed without being in need of Allah, and nothing exists except that it is in need of Allah. So it's all blasphemy. So for this reason, this is amongst the reasons that Ibn Taymiyyah is judged as a blasphemer. And mashallah. Let me see. Also is believing that Allah is created with that Allah is attributed with created attributes, such as believing that his will is created, or believing that he willed for something after not having willed for it. Okay, so we believe that Allah's will is eternal without a beginning, just like all of his attributes. So Allah eternally willed for whatever to happen to happen. Okay, so the only things that change are the willed things and not the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. You understand that case? You're not that loud, but I heard you. You sound muffled. And it says, or that his knowledge is created. So someone believes.
Better now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yep. Okay. Or that his knowledge is created, or that he becomes knowledgeable of something after having not known it. Okay. All of this is blasphemy. Yani, okay. Because if you said that it's different ways of saying the same thing. So if you said not that the knowledge of Allah is created, that means it's something new, right? And if you said that he became knowledgeable of something after not having known it, that's once again new, like new knowledge. Okay, so Allah eternally knew everything that will be, to be, and shall be, whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's no new knowledge to Allah. Knowledge is new to us because we're created. and we have created knowledge. There's also believing that Allah is attributed with color, or believing that he is attributed with movement or rest. Because had he been attributed with rest, he would have many similars, and had he been attributed with movement, he would have had many similars. And this contradicts the saying of Allah, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Verse means nothing resembles Allah at all. Let that verse be embedded in your heart. That's like a very strong verse in Tawheed. You see, when we go through different chapters, like different books covering at Tawheed, we always come back to that verse a lot. And the scholars mention that that is the strongest verse in uh, declaring the dissimilarity of Allah to the creations. Okay. And as people of our opponents, they recite this verse and say they believe it, and then they contradict it in the next statement. So you have to be careful to make sure you understand the verse. MashaAllah. So, so you have people that they believe that Allah is attributed with color. Color is a created attribute. Okay, because this is something that is specified. Like I'm specified with the complexion I have, and you're specified with the complexion you have, which I think you're slightly lighter than me, right? And but if
Yeah,
Allah,
I think.
yeah, if Allah willed, it could have been the other way around. Why is it that you're lighter than me and I'm darker than you? If you say because your mother is lighter than me, my father was lighter than your mother. So same difference, right? So Allah,
Wait, how late was your brother?
he was slightly lighter than your mother.
Oh,
Yeah, slightly, not that much. Like he had more yellowish to him. Ironically, though, here go the word statement. You ready for this?
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this camera was messed up, the angle, but there's a picture of him with my sister when my sister was like a baby, and he looked a lot like me. Like he even looked like he's my complexion on the picture. It's weird, but so yeah. So color is something that's specified. It's a created attribute. Also believing that he is attributed with movement or rest. This is also a created attribute. Anything attributed with movement or rest, or I'm gonna change the word from movement and rest to movement uh, or stationary. Okay, something's either moving or stationary. Okay, anything that is moving or stationary is in a place. Okay, so that means once it's in a place, it has to be created. So that's why we say Allah is not attributed with either movement or being stationary. Uh, and this is understanding that, not to take certain hadith literally, like the Wahhabis and their like do, the Mushabbiha. They say like they believe that Allah is coming down to the nearest heaven, or the third heaven. I think it's the nearest heaven. Yeah, the nearest heaven on the last third of the night. This is what they believe from a hadith. The hadith, if you take it literally, that's what you would understand. But we know better than to take it literally. And because of other hadith, we have a more clear statement of what's going on here. What's happening? The angels come down at the last third of the night, and they ask who is making supplication to Allah Azza wa Jal so it can be accepted, basically. Okay? So the angels speak, and we'll cover that hadith in another future time. I don't want to go too far from the book. But these people, they take that hadith literally, and then they're claiming that Allah is moving. Another case would be there's a statement in the hadith about uh basically the the gist of the hadith was that a person has no acceptance from Allah except by fulfilling their obligations. And then they get closer to acquiring more acceptance of Allah Azza wa Jal, so they get more rewards. That's basically what the hadith is saying, by increasing in acts of obedience. But it's speaking in a figurative way. And so it says, uh, the if you make a step towards Allah, He comes running towards you like this. That's the type of statement. So, or jogging, right? So you have one Wahhabi, his name Ibn Utaymi. He's out there talking about Allah jogs. So since he took that hadith literally, which he's dead now, but if you find one of his followers saying that, then tell him, okay, go walking until you find Allah. Because that's basically what you're saying. If you want to take the hadith literally, because the hadith says whoever walks towards Allah, Allah comes running towards them or jogging towards her. So go walk until you run into Allah. Don't stop walking. Remember, Allah, you say Allah is jogging. So yani, if He comes jogging towards you, you will get to Him quickly. You could prove me wrong and bring Him to me, because this is what you believe. You believe in a created thing. Yani, it's very ignorant people. So it says, let it also be known that there are actions which take the person out of Islam. Among the actions is throwing the book of the Quran into the trash and prostrating to an idol, i.e., an object worshipped instead of Allah, whether it was made of stone, iron, gold, silver, or the like. For prostrating to it is blasphemy, even if the person was joking. So, yani, you might see like you have these, I've seen like, what would you call it? These like National Geographic things where they're talking about studying different cultures and religions, and they would go to these different places. And there was this guy, he claims to be Muslim, right? This guy, he claims to be Muslim, and he said a lot of kufr. But then he was doing this show, and he went to this place where is some kind of strange Hindu people, right? When I say strange Hindu people, they're not like your average Hindu. Like Hindus are strange already, but these are these are more strange Hindus, right? And these Hindus, they they practice some type of form of cannibalism, and
Wait, describe it.
huh?
What do you mean form?
Like
How was it?
like they eat people.
Yeah, but like, what do you mean by? If it's a form, I'd assume it was like they're doing something weird when they eat people, like they're doing something different than the average cannibal. So, like,
Yeah, I don't remember the exact details, but it's like maybe like they store the food, or I don't know, store. Like I think like they have some kind of like cracker or something. I don't know, Yanni. This like from some years ago, Yanni. Like you was a little kid when I saw this, uh, but this man, uh, whatever it is, like so, I think they have some kind of way where they have this piece of the human stored, like whatever. Maybe they're making a dip out of the. It's funny, but it's disgusting, but funny, but like they gave him a piece of whatever it was that they have, and he ate it. And he's supposed to be Muslim. Like Johnny, we're arguing with Muslims over eating non-halal. This guy's eating people. What's this guy, man? Okay.
What show is this?
It was on CNN, and they might have removed it off the internet. I'm gonna look for it and see if I can find it.
Oh, it can't fully be removed from the internet. I can find it.
Huh?
See, it can't fully be removed from the internet. I could probably find it. See, CNN guy, Muslim guy eats person with Hindu. See, face to face for cannibalistic suck. 2017.
Huh? Yeah, it might have been
When
then.
do you say this was?
It might have been then. Yeah, because I want to say it happened like while I was still with you know who.
Reza Aslan
Yes, him.
layered some. Yep.
Yep.
Some feet. It is a bizarre covered in cremated ashes. Okay.
Yeah, like what is a Muslim doing this? They will say, "Look, I'm not part of your religion. I can't do that." You know. Now, okay, eating that isn't necessarily kufr, but it's definitely haram. Um, and but okay, that's like one example. But you have like other cases where I remember when I was like a kid, right? So this is way before you had people doing similar shows like this, and they'll go to some kind of place, and the people that they'll have them bow down or prostrate to their idol, and they'll bow down and prostrate to their idol. A Muslim can't do that. Okay. Uh, Even if you just say, "Oh, I'm just showing respect to their religion," no, you. Well, that's another thing. A statement that's famous amongst a lot of people. They would say, "We respect our religions." No, we don't respect kufr. Okay, we don't. So we don't respect our religions. What? We only respect Islam because Islam is the accepted religion of Allah Azza wa Jal. However, what when you're dealing with the kuffar, we treat them in a just manner. That's what we do. Okay, so we don't treat them unjustly. Okay, but we don't respect their blasphemy. Okay, this is something that a lot of people say. A lot of people they don't know what they're saying, and they're trying to be nice, and they don't know what they're saying. So if you hear Muslims saying this, warn him, explain to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't say we respect that because, like, especially with a lot of Muslims, they don't realize what they're saying. Like, yani, uh, respect is like ta'adim, which is to hold in a high regard. Which, of course, if when you break it down like that, they understand that to hold in high regard kufr is not good because accepting kufr is blasphemy. How about holding it in high regard? Okay, but they're thinking like they're trying to say we're kind. Okay, we're kind to kufar. Yeah, we are kind to kufar. This we are. We are kind and manable with kufar because we want to bring them to Islam. Okay, but we don't say we respect kufar. And so like you don't have to go into all those details with the kafir in general. You know what I'm saying? But if a kafir comes up and says, you Muslims, y'all do, you know what I'm saying? You don't say, no, we respect all religions. No, you don't say that. Rather, you say we don't do anything unjust. We give everybody their rights. You know, we show kindness to everybody. We are kind and we give everybody their rights. Okay, and we defend ourselves if we are attacked. Okay, and another thing, because this is another mashallah, they want to say uh, Islam spread by the sword. Okay, I mean this is an attack they use. They try to say Islam spread by the sword. What do they mean by this? They want to say that Muslims were forcing people to become Muslims at the edge of the sword. That's not true. Okay, but the government of Islam spread by the sword. Okay, and i.e. meaning the Muslims would come to a place. They would give the people three options. They would say either you become Muslim or you say if you become Muslim, then you're just like us. Okay, so it wasn't racial. Okay, they say if you continue in your blasphemy, then we're gonna rule this land and you pay us jizya. Okay, so you pay us this fee and we will protect you from anybody harming you and allow you to continue on your invalid religion, basically unharmed. Or yani you or if you don't accept that, we're gonna fight. That's what it was, right? And so at times those kuffar would fight. At times those kuffar would choose to pay jizya, one of the two. And At times, some people will become Muslim. They will say, "What is this about this religion that you're inviting us to?" And they'll hear the arguments and they would accept. Okay, this is how Islam spread. Now, uh, in regards to those who fought or or just chose to pay jizya, right? Okay, so you had people that fought, and usually Muslims will be victorious, and then they would end up paying jizya, or you had people that decided to pay jizya, right? The jizya, they would find that the jizya was a relief. A relief from what? It was a relief from the taxes that they were being charged by their original rulers. So then they will find that the Muslims are liberating them from high taxation. And then some of those people, even though they're paying this jizya uh, so that the Muslims will protect them, you will find some of those people that when the like maybe their rulers left them and then they regroup and come back with an army to fight the Muslims. Some of those people, they don't have to fight because they're paying jizya. The Muslims are supposed to fight and protect them, right? They would join the Muslim armies and fight against their own co-religionists because their co-religionists was oppressing them. So the Muslims were liberating them from the high taxation of the blasphemous. But okay, I keep going off into other subjects. Sorry. Uh, so it says, likewise, the one who prostrates to the sun or to the moon blasphemes. Similarly, the one who prostrates to a human out of worship blasphemes. Now, notice what the author said. He said, out of worship. So, if a person prostrated to a human, but his intention was not to worship him, his intention was out of creation. I mean, that's not out of creation, out of reverence, out of respect. He does not blaspheme. However, he commits something that's haram. And we know this because one time, one of the companions, he went to uh like Rome and he came back. And when I say Rome, like he went to the land of the Romans, okay, which is the Greeks. Yani, like they call it the Byzantine Empire, but in Arabic it was called Arum. They called all of that Arum, which is translates literally as Romans, but it's the Greek Byzantine thing because the Roman Empire has split into two. It was the Greek Byzantine, and then it was the actual Roman, which was Italy. But the Muslims, with the Arabs, they still called all of it Rome. Anyway, so they went to those lands, and in those lands, they saw that the bishops and the priests and all the people, they would prostrate to the kings out of respect, right? So when this companion came back, he prostrated to the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and the Prophet asked him, "What are you doing?" Right? And so he told him that he told the Prophet, "You are more deserving of being prostrated to than those people in the Roman lands that the people prostrate to out of respect." So the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, told him, "Do not do this." Okay, so he prohibited him from doing this. He didn't say, "Take your shahada, you don't worship me," because the companion never ever said he was worshiping him. Okay, well, he didn't say, "Take your shahada, you committed kufr," because the companion didn't commit kufr. Rather, this companion, he had did something haram. So the Prophet told him not to do that. He prohibited him from doing that. And he said, if I was to order anyone in my ummah to prostrate to anyone, I will order the woman to prostrate to her husband out of the great right that he has over her. Okay, but as you see, it's prohibited, period, for us to prostrate to anybody out of respect or otherwise. But if you found a Muslim doing this, you have to check and see what was he doing. Why are you prostrating to this person? You don't judge them as a kafir just by seeing them prostrating to a human being. And in the previous ummah, it's prohibited. So it's prohibited in this ummah, But in the previous ummah, it was not prohibited to prostrate to someone out of respect. So you will find this in the story of Yusuf and in the story of Adam alayhi salam. Where the angels prostrated to Adam alayhi salam, and then with Yusuf, his brothers them prostrated to him. Uh, any questions?
No.
Okay. So it says also among the actions of blasphemy is writing the Quran with urine and stepping intentionally on books containing religious material while knowing that these are religious books. So first let's deal with the Quran. So writing the Quran with any najasa. Okay. So it mentioned urine in this case, but I'm just gonna clarify it's najasa. So if a person wrote the Quran with blood, this would be kufr, or urine or feces, which I don't know why they would be writing with feces, but Allahu Alam. But okay, actually, what we know about in regards to urine or najasa, because I made a big deal over feces, but you like, why are they writing with urine or blood in the first place? The practitioners of sihr, that is magic, sorcery, okay, those who communicate with the devils amongst the jinn, they get people to do these type of acts for power. Okay, so that these shayateen, devils amongst the jinn, they order them to do acts like this because this is blasphemy, right? So they say, do this, and then we will grant you such and such will, you know what I'm saying, or power. Okay, so this is what that's warning about. And then it says, and also likewise like that would be tattooing. So we don't tattoo Quran or the name of Allah or anything like that on us. Matter of fact, tattooing period is haram. Okay. Uh, in regards to the tattoos I have, that was because I was a Muslim. You know, I wasn't born and raised Muslim. So, and alhamdulillah, I didn't, when I became Muslim, before I jumped off the porch and started doing some weird stuff, I learned. So I never got any tattoos after that. But yeah, so it's blasphemy. Now, what's the case on the didn't know and did it? I don't know. I've asked it. I haven't gotten a clear answer. The person told me they don't want to answer that question because I know you know who got that. Uh, uh, I even knew somebody personally who got that. Also stepping intentionally on books containing religious material. So that be it the Quran or other books like books of fiqh, or like I'm like this. I'm reading this book of knowledge, Umdat ArRaghib, right? Okay. So if you step on these type of books, knowing that it's the book, then you fall into blasphemy. Okay. So like what they mentioned like in overseas, you know, they have there was like a bookstore and a person worked there, you know, they had like books of knowledge and they had them stacked up and they would step on them like shelf. We can't do that. So if you were working in a Muslim bookstore and then you needed to get something off a higher shelf and the only way you could get it off the higher shelf was by stepping on religious books, you don't do that because that's kufr. You would have to figure out something else to do. Well, leave it on the higher shelf. Go get a ladder. So it says, as for the sayings that take the one who utters them out of Islam, these are more numerous. What means most of the sins of Adam's offspring are from his tongue, narrated by At-Tabarani with an authentic chain from the hadith of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. So Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he was a companion of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, from the early years of Islam. Like he's one of the very early Muslims. Like one time, Abu Bakr and the Prophet were traveling, and they came across Abdullah bin Masud. Okay, and Abdullah bin Masud was a young man who was tending to flocks, yeah, sheeps, right, sheeps and goats. Uh, so the Prophet والسلام, had asked if he could get some milk from one of the sheep, and Abdullah bin Masud, he informed that the sheeps are not his. Okay, he was in charge. You know, he was hired to do that, but he can't give the milk because it's not his, right? And so the Prophet والسلام, asked him to bring a virgin sheep, so a female sheep that's never had any relations, and he brought that, and then the Prophet والسلام, rubbed its area where the udder would be, and it filled with milk, and the Prophet milked it, and they gave Abu Bakr and Abdullah bin Mas'ud some of the milk, and he drank some of the milk. And then after that, that's how Abdullah bin Mas'ud became a Muslim. Because when he saw that this was a miracle. So after that, he became a follower of the Prophet, and he was one of the top uh, authorities of the Quran. Uh, if I remember correctly, it's something like he mentioned, like he memorized 70 of the surahs of the Quran directly from the mouth of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam. And the Prophet, yeah,
Yeah, I gotta catch the. I'm sorry. You on the phone?
yeah, but go ahead.
Oh, I catch the 4:30 bus up there. Detroit. I do deadhead.
Okay, go ahead and start getting ready. So,
Yeah. All right.
all right. Yeah, so the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam, what was it? So he became a follower of the Prophet from that time. This was early in the days of Mecca. So he's one of the early Muslims. So, what it said, most of the sins of Adam's offspring are from his tongue. It says, each of these three categories of apostasy takes the person who commits it out of Islam, even if it was not joined by another category of apostasy, i.e., blasphemous sayings take one out of Islam without them being joined by a belief or an action. This is what the scholars agreed upon. Hence, no regard is given to what contradicts this. So, yani, it's not like you have to do all three kinds in order to be judged as a kafir. Just doing one of them makes a person a kafir. That's what he's saying. We could start a little bit. We're not going to go too much further, but it's going to take them at least 10 minutes to get ready. So let me see. The author, may Allah have mercy on him, said, among the examples of the first category of apostasy are having doubt in Allah, his messenger, the Quran, the day of judgment, paradise, hell, reward, punishment, having doubt in similar matters upon which there has been scholarly consensus and are commonly known among the Muslims to be of the religion, believing that the world is eternal by kind and elements or by kind only, or denying one of the attributes of Allah, which are confirmed by consensus that he is attributed with, such as being omniscient. So the explanation says, the one who doubts in the existence of Allah blasphemes. Likewise blasphemes the one who doubts in the messengership of any of the messengers of Allah, whose messengership is commonly known among the Muslims to be of the religion, or doubts whether the Quran was revealed to our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not, or doubts whether or not the day of judgment will happen, or doubts in the existence of paradise, hell, reward or punishment, i.e., their existence in the hereafter. This does not mean that merely hesitating as to whether paradise or hell now exists is blasphemy. for that is not commonly known among the Muslims to be of the religion. However, the people of truth are on the belief that paradise and hell are created and exist now. So, the people of truth, that's another title for Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? Sunnis. Okay? It say Ahl Haq. That's the people of the truth. There are other titles. Uh, it says also among kufr is believing that the world is eternal by kind and elements, as was said by some early philosophers, or by kind only as said by later philosophers. And Ahmed ibn Taymiyyah followed them in this misguidance. We talked about that earlier. Ironically, it's saying exactly what I said earlier. So, the Muslims unanimously agreed that both groups are blasphemous. This consensus was conveyed by the muhaddith, the faqih, the usuli. Usuli means the person who is knowledgeable amongst the fundamentals of the religion. Okay, so that means like the fundamentals is the primary proofs of the religion. Uh, his name Badruddin Az-Zarkashi in his book Tashnif al-Masa'imi, as was already mentioned. So let's see. Mentioned a lot. It says the existence of Allah the one who doubts in the existence of Allah blasphemes. Yani, there is, mashallah, I was just looking at a post I had put up about this. There's a hadith about how shaitan comes to the people and he questions them about where did this come from? Where did that come from? Until he asks the person, where did the law come from? And Yani, this is something that he wants to get you to question it, where it forms a doubt in your heart. This is what you call mashallah, you call this involuntary thoughts. Okay, so if you're haunted by involuntary thoughts that make you doubt in the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal, not make you doubt, but involuntary thoughts concerning the existence of Allah, that'll be the correct statement. Okay, if the person finds himself haunted or bombarded with thoughts questioning the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal, they resort to the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. So, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to refute this, you say, Amantu billahi wa rusulih. You know what that means?
No.
It means I believe in Allah and His Messenger. Okay? So that's one dhikr. Another dhikr, you could just say La ilaha illallah, because you don't remember that, because I know that's maybe kind of new to you. So if shaitan approached you with these type of thoughts, then you refute them by saying La ilaha illallah. Okay, so shaitan, he comes to us and we hear his speech, and it sounds like it's coming from ourselves. Okay, so it sounds like you're having the thoughts. Okay, and sometimes maybe you have thoughts, so it can be confusing. But the shayateen, they do not know what you think. But it's like, yani, mashallah, because you deal with animals, right? So by dealing with the animal, you like like when your cat's hungry or maybe it's playful or whatever. Like sometimes the cat just wants attention. And you know that because you've been dealing with this cat. It's your cat, right? So you give it attention. Sometimes it wants food. Okay. Sometimes it don't want to be bothered. But the cat never says, "Hey, I want some food," or it never says, "I don't want to be bothered," right? It doesn't speak in our language. Okay. So Shaitan, he's been around. The devils, period. They live long lives, right? So they live extraordinary long lives and they know how to deal with us. So they whisper something to us and then they watch to see how we act. Some people are very blatantly bothered by these hauntings of the devil. And so when the devils, they see them reacting in this way, then they keep bringing it on. They're going to keep coming at them. The way to repel them is by making dhikr of Allah. Okay? So you can say, Amantu billahi wa rusuli. You can say, La ilaha illallah. You can say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You could just say Allah. Okay? You could say the adhan. All of this repels the shayateen. Okay? So let me see. They have likewise, blasphemy is the one who denies one of the attributes of Allah, which are confirmed by consensus that he is attributed with, such as the attribute of knowledge, life, hearing, sight, or power. No one is excused for being ignorant in this matter. The Hafiz Ibn al-Jawzi said, whoever denies that Allah has power over everything is a blasphemer by consensus. This means there is no disagreement in this matter. Even if there were no religious text confirming these 13 attributes of Allah, the mind perceives that Allah has power over everything, and He knows about everything. And everything that occurs happens by the will of Allah. And that is a mental necessity that it is a mental necessity that Allah be attributed with hearing and sight as befitting attributes. And so is the case with the remaining attributes of these 13. Okay. As for the attributes of al-wajh, al-yad, al-ayn, and other attributes like these, which were mentioned in the religious texts as attributes of Allah and not as organs, these the mind does not independently realize that Allah is attributed with them without knowing about them from religious texts. Therefore, the one who denies these attributes out of ignorance does not blaspheme. To give an example, if a person heard al-ayn or attributed to Allah, but he denied that because he had not heard that the religious text mentioned that, he is not deemed a kafir. Rather, he is taught that this is among what was mentioned in the religious text. Okay, so to bring that closer to you, and even I'm going to explain. Okay, so I'm bringing it closer, inshallah. So a person native language was Arabic, and they heard the term al-ayn being attributed to Allah, they're going to understand an eye. If they heard al-yad being attributed to Allah, they're going to understand a hand. If they heard al-wajh being attributed to Allah, they're going to understand a face. So if based off of that understanding of this, okay, that's the primary understanding when they hear these words, they rejected that, like, no, because they never heard that these are attributes of Allah, and they're hearing that you're saying that Allah has a face, a hand, and an eye. They say, no, Allah is not attributed with that. Allah is the creator of all of that. Okay, they don't blaspheme. Okay, and likewise, you have people in English, they translate these things. Now they're falling into a situation here now. Okay, so you have people that are from Ahl Sunnah and they don't believe Allah is like the creation, but they for some reason they translate these like this. Okay, we're gonna say they're sinful for doing that, but they don't fall into blasphemy. You know what I'm saying? So, but like if you heard someone saying, uh, you hear someone saying Allah has a hand, and He created Adam with his two hands, whatever, right? Initially, you understand it blasphemy. When I hear somebody say that, that's generally what I'm gonna understand. Like this, I'm gonna think this is a Wahhabi or something, right? But if you go and you talk to him, and he's like, "No, Allah doesn't have body parts. Uh, these are attributes of Allah that Allah knows what they means, but He just continues to use that term hand." Okay, you have these people. I don't know what's wrong with them. Then you don't judge him as blasphemy. He's sinful. Okay. Uh, so it goes on. Likewise, if a person denied that Al-Mu'min is one of the names of Allah because he had not heard that in the Quran, it is mentioned as one of the names of Allah, he is not deemed as a blasphemer. Rather, he is told that in the Quran, this name was mentioned as being one of the names of Allah in Surah Al-Hashr. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو والله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن. Okay. So it is, if it is said to the person that Allah has the attributes of al-wajh, al-yad, and al-ayn, and he said this is not permissible, this is not correct, because he had not heard these being attributed to Allah in the religious text, is not deemed as a blasphemer. However, the one who denies that after having known that this is affirmed in the religious text, this person is deemed a blasphemer. But if he did not know that but if he did not know this, then however, the one who denies that after having known that this is affirmed in the religious text, this person is deemed as a blasphemer. But if he did not know that this is mentioned in the Quran and in the Hadith, then he is told that this is mentioned in the Quran and in the Hadith. So you are obligated to believe in that with the meaning that al-wajh is not an organ as the wedge of the creation, because the wedge of the creation is the face. Now, okay, meaning it is not a volume, and that the ayn of Allah is not an organ as the ayn of the creation. The ayn would be the eye, okay, and the yad of Allah is not an organ like the yad and the ayn of Allah, not organs, because Allah is clear of being attributed with organs. The one who believes that Allah has a wajh, a ayn, or a yad with the meaning of an organ is a kafir. When this is clear, it is known that no one is excused for being ignorant about Allah having power over everything, or about the other attributes which the mind perceives on its own that Allah is attributed with, regardless of the extent of ignorance this person has. Always remember the consensus reported by Ibn al-Jawzi on this matter. So there was a person who wrote, who said that if a person denied that Allah had power over everything, we wouldn't judge them as a blasphemer. And they came to this conclusion based off a hadith that they misunderstood. So inshallah, I'm going to try to get that hadith for the next class, because we're going to go over that right now. But what I do want to do, I want to clarify al-mu'min. So the name of Allah, al-mu'min, does not mean the believer. Okay. So al-mu'min, when we call each other mu'min, okay, so you say, I'm a mu'min, I believe in Allah. It means you're a believer. Okay, that's one of the titles of the Muslim, is a mu'min. Okay, so you can call a person a mu'min or a Muslim. These can be used interchangeably. However, you cannot call Allah Muslim, but Allah is called al-mu'min. So the name al-mu'min, when attributed to Allah, means the one who witnessed that his slaves are truthful in their declaration that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And it also means the one who protects his slaves. So it has a different meaning in reference to Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay. But in regards to us, mu'min is the believer. See. والله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز. Yeah, okay. I'm like, I know this ayat. So what else I wanted to mention before we end the class? I don't know. Any questions?
No.
Okay, mashallah. We're gonna end it right here, bi-iznillah ta'ala. So I can get ready to take your uncle to his yadig. Mashallah, we got close to an hour in this time. And with I don't know if you feel up to it after I get off work, we might do another class tonight. I know we were supposed to do one last night. I was too tired. But so if you're up to it and I'm up to it, then we'll do another one tonight. يهلي لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهله وصحبه